Hey, what's up, players? I originally had a different video planned where I talk about the future of Virtua Fighter, but that was before Sega dropped a trailer for the new Virtua Fighter coming out, as well as held a Virtua Fighter Direct. All of a sudden, I had to throw off my script and start over. Daijibu. Seems like throughout 2024, there's just been constant rumors and leaks of a new Virtual Fighter coming out. And actually, as of recently, there was one, I guess, quote-unquote leak. I don't know if it's so much of a leak or more of like a slip of the tongue during an interview that shortly followed a new installment of Virtua Fighter 5, which was Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O, which is the first Virtua Fighter, I think, in a long time to come to PC and has rollback netcode. Yes. The previous installment of Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown on the PS4 used a strange delay-based netcode. I'm not sure what the name of it was, but it basically didn't really work out depending on what region you were from. So rollback netcode is the way to go. I still have goosebumps. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I know there are players more ahead of me in years that have been waiting for much longer. I think I shared this in the past, but my first experience with Virtua Fighter was Virtua Fighter 2 on the Sega Saturn when I was a small kid. I just loved mashing. I really loved the bright, colorful graphics, and I just thought it was super cool. And then fast forward to Virtual Quest on the Nintendo GameCube. I think I just got this because I was a huge Sega fan at the time. Honestly, not much has changed. And I didn't really make the connection of Virtual Quest and Virtua Fighter. I don't know if I should make a video on that. Let me know if I should. But fast forward once again to, I guess technically 2007 for me. 2006 is when Virtua Fighter 5 comes out on Japanese arcades. And this is the first Virtua Fighter and really one of the first fighters to make the jump to HD graphics, and this looked incredible. And honestly, even looking back at vanilla VF5, I still think parts of it still holds up. But anyway, it's been nearly 20 years since a new mainline entry. So the question that's on a lot of people's minds is, does Virtua Fighter have what it takes to exist in this current fighting game landscape? I've always loved fighting games, particularly 3D fighting games were my bread and butter. But while I had friends that knew Tekken, and I had friends that I could play Soul Calibur with, and at least one friend from high school that I could play Dead or Alive with, when this before I was a Christian, when I used to play Dead or Alive, I could rarely find anyone else that knew what the heck a Virtua Fighter was. To most people, if you show them Virtua Fighter for the first time, they think it's a Tekken ripoff, despite the fact that Virtua Fighter is the first 3D fighting game that other franchises like Tekken and Soul Calibur would take inspirations from. Not to say that 3D fighting games would have never happened without Virtua Fighter, because certainly it would have happened regardless. But unless you grew up in the arcade scene, or you're like me and you happen to be a big Sega nerd, without knowing the history and the impact that Virtua Fighter had on the gaming landscape, not just fighting game landscape, I always felt that Virtua Fighter is a franchise that never got the flowers it rightfully deserves. Yet, there is no better time for this legendary martial arts fighting game franchise to come back. Street Fighter 6 is massive right now. Tekken 8, despite what you might read online through social media discourse, Tekken 8's a lot of fun. Guilty Gear Strive and King of Fighters 15 are still going strong. SNK in general is on their come up with Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. They say that they're going to be making more KOF and other franchises again. Really, this is the perfect environment for Virtua Fighter to come back and show everyone why it is a beloved fighting game franchise by its player base. Sega's already starting strong by showing a trailer of the new Virtua Fighter at the Game Awards, one of the biggest gaming events out there that has so many eyes on it. And then to follow that up by holding a Virtua Fighter Direct right after the Game Awards. Like, this is the kind of thing that makes sense and seems like a logical thing to do, but sometimes companies don't go for what makes sense. Most of the Virtua Fighter news that we've had were, again, rumors and an offhand comment of a new Virtua Fighter followed by a shadow drop of BF5 R.E.V.O. So count me surprised that they held a trailer at the biggest gaming event out there. It really just shows that Sega is taking this serious. While we don't know all the details about their upcoming game, we do know, based on what they've shown so far during that direct, that it is in good hands. I really like the direction that they're taking by leaning heavily into realism and innovation as part of like their key pieces that they want to focus on with the new game. Because that is what Virtua Fighter is at its core. While it's kind of hard to see now, Virtua Fighter was a franchise that was made to pioneer technological advances in gaming. Back in the 90s, fighting games had a huge boom due to the success of Street Fighter 2 and its many revisions. So you got Street Fighter 2, but then you also got SNK with their different fighting games such as Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury, and of course their most well-known fighting game franchise, the King of Fighters. And then you have Mortal Kombat that's also on the scene, and before you know it, the market got flooded by what's called as it is, a bunch of Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat clones. It seemed like at this point fighting games were figured out. You know, you have like a really big jump that you can do. You have your fireballs, you have your big flashy supers and whatnot. But then comes Virtua Fighter. It's a fully 3D polygonal fighting game. The fighters are mo-capped to use legit martial arts moves. Well, legit to everything else compared to the time. There's a Z-axis now. There's no fireballs, only hands. This, ladies and gentlemen, was the start of innovation. And with each new Virtua Fighter, they kept advancing things so much more. The jump graphically from Virtua Fighter 1 to 2 is insane. They made 3D movement a whole lot easier to do. And they would go on to include features that have been adopted by their competitors. One feature that started in Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution was Arcade Quest mode, which I might be mistaken. I think it was also in vanilla Virtua Fighter 5. Because I kind of remember something like that before. I didn't own 4 Evolution, but I think a similar system was in 5. Correct me if I'm wrong down below. But this is something that hasn't been adopted until Tekken 8, really. So I hope that I'm illustrating that Virtua Fighter and innovation have always went hand in hand. So the fact that they're continuing to hold on to that plus realism for the new game is great news in my opinion. Now, it is wise to keep expectations in check, but the fact that they're making this a key point for the new Virtua Fighter means that Sega is not content to play things safe. Okay, I feel like I got sidetracked on that one point, so I'm just going to try to go through my other points as quickly as possible. Another thing that reassures me that this game is in good hands is that they have RGG working on the game. If you don't know, RGG are the developers behind the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series, which is a really great series, and they actually had a chance to really show what they're made of by working on Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown and with 5 R.E.V.O on Steam. Apparently, they're bringing their storytelling expertise over to Virtua Fighter, and that makes me incredibly happy. One, because Like a Dragon storytelling is peak fiction. I may or may not be exaggerating, I just really love it. And Virtua Fighter has a really great story that just isn't presented in front of you in the games. The story has always been behind the instruction manual, or there is a Virtua Fighter anime, but I believe it only goes up to Virtua Fighter 2 plot-wise. So if RGG is really going to be taking this franchise under their wings, using the experience they got from Virtua Fighter, I'm happy. And it's pretty evident that they have something interesting going on here based on the setting that they chose for the trailer, Akira's interesting new look, and this mysterious character called Stella who bears a striking resemblance to Sarah Bryant. And speaking of Akira, the fact that they went so far as to drastically change his default look, because I'm gonna assume this is his default look, and it looks like they've aged him up, means that this isn't gonna be a reboot. This is gonna be a continuation of storylines that we've been seeing, maybe seeing in the background, but seeing a progression here, and that makes me happy. I think these characters are super cool. I know most people only know these characters for their cheesy one-liners, but they're cool. And if RGG can show people why they're cool, oh man, I'm gonna be so happy. Some other cool things is that Sega is holding an open beta right now at the time of this recording for Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O on Steam, which is really cool. It means that they really want to take an effort to test the rollback netcode, make sure that everything is great, not only for when Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O comes out on January 28th, I think it's the 28th, but it will also be a great foundation for the upcoming Virtua Fighter, especially since Sega is serious about leaning into the esports competitive side of the game, which is really sick. I remember being in high school and watching a bunch of Virtua Fighter 5R high level matches on YouTube. I just love seeing professionals play this game, and to be able to see that again, but for the modern era, oh my gosh. And one last thing I want to talk about with Virtua Fighter being back is that Virtua Fighter being around means that Tekken has competition again. Keep in mind, I enjoy both franchises. I'm more biased for Virtua Fighter, but I love both franchises. However, even Harada himself misses Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter is something that he always wanted to try to strive to be better than, and in turn that only made Tekken better. For the longest time, Tekken stood as the only 3D fighter out there, and it's kind of lonely being at the top. So with Virtua Fighter really making this huge comeback, I'm sure Harada, out of all the Virtua Fighter fans, is the most happiest to have his old rival back. And with Virtua Fighter back, that can only push Tekken to be better. Believe me, I could go on and on about Virtua Fighter, but I need to edit this video and I want to make sure I have enough time to play the open beta, so I'm gonna end it here. If you managed to make it this far, hey, thank you so much for watching. It really means a ton. Man, I have so much Virtua Fighter stuff that I can talk about, so if this is something that interests you, whether you're a Virtua Fighter veteran or someone that's never heard the franchise before, but are kind of curious, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. Anyway, if you're looking for our non-denominational church, down in the description will be a link to our church locator, and if you want to hang out, link to my Discord's also down below. Thank you so much for watching, y'all, and until next time, GG, GB, peace.